Happy Monday, folks. In today's show, we got a lot of Lions rumors and news to talk about here. We're going to talk about Broderic Martin in a good way. Can't wait to show you about that. Breakout players. What are players' named for the Detroit Lions? Do I agree? Do I disagree? We're going to talk about that. Lions lose a staff member from Brad Holmes' regime. We're going to talk about the impact there. Should the Lions trade for Budda Baker? An article believes we should. And we're going to get into the Detroit Lions offensive line. But before we do that, make sure you go ahead and hit that like button. Let's get to 300 likes in this video. Let's start right now with some Lions news here. Joe Chapp did a good job blending the before and after in with Broderic Martin to one of the photos on social media. The first photo is from last year's minicamp in June, when the other one is this week's OTAs. You're going to see the picture here of Broderic Martin, and you can see a significant difference from what he was last year and to this year. You know what this is very reminiscent of? Alim McNeill, right? Alim McNeill was a little bit overweight, at least in his opinion, and he physically got in shape, and his production blew up this past season. Could Broderic Martin be doing the same footsteps as Alim McNeill? We can only hope so, because if that's the case, then he can step up here. If you look at the Lions' defensive tackle position, you throw Levi Nuzurike in here as well. Makai Wingo, Broderic Martin, DJ Reader, and Alim McNeill. If Broderic Martin could step up, the Lions could really have a ferocious interior defensive line, and we've seen the picture there, folks. He is looking freaking jacked, and that's what you need to have, you know, to take the game to the next level. He barely played last year, didn't do a whole lot of anything. Look at his stats, it's just one. That's really it. So the Detroit Lions would like him to step up this year, and clearly he is at least doing the physical part of losing weight and gaining muscle mass. So I got a question for you. Could Broderic Martin have an Alim McNeill-like season? Let me know in the comments below. I sure hope he does. Let's continue in here and talk about breakout players. Now, interestingly enough, there was an article done about the breakout players, and the player that they selected is a little bit different than what you would expect here. PFF says, with Josh Reynolds heading to Denver, the Lions receivers behind Amon-Ra St. Brown all received a boost in the pecking order. The fact that Detroit didn't add a wideout in the draft means Brad Holmes trusts guys like Raymond to replace Reynolds' ability to move the chains. Raymond ranked third on the Lions' receiving grade last year, an 8-year vet, should be in for a career-high targets, shares, an offense that loves distributing the football. Now, I 100% agree with that Kalif Raymond is probably one of the most underrated players on the Detroit Lions, and he doesn't get enough credit when he should. But I think the breakout player, honestly, should be maybe Jameson Williams. You know, look, Raymond could very well have a high career in 2024, but he still stands as number receiver on the depth chart. And Williams is now moving to number 2. And when you look at the Lions' depth chart at wide receiver, it is still really good. But again, Jameson Williams sitting there too. And I love Kalif Raymond. I do. I think he's the most underrated player on the team. But if I'm talking about a breakout wide receiver or breakout player, you probably want to at least look at 2 receivers, one being Jameson Williams here, who last year he only had 354 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns. He has a ways to move up, and I think he could probably darn near triple his production, almost to 1,000 yards receiving, so that would be a significant gain. Another player in the wide receiver core with the Josh Reynolds leaving besides Jameson Williams and Kalif Raymond, I would honestly put Donovan Peoples-Jones would be my selection, probably to make the biggest jump, because he barely played last year, and they clearly like him. They like him a lot. That's why they traded for him. So I think that Donovan Peoples-Jones could have a significant breakout year for the Detroit Lions. Really could. But I totally get them going Kalif Raymond, but I think with outsiders looking in, they didn't generally probably even think of Kalif Raymond as someone to break out at all. But we as Lions fans, we know his worth. We know that he's broken out before. So I expect him to make the jump that they haven't broken out, but I just expect that. I expect him to make a significant jump. So for me, I know what he's coming into. I guess if you don't believe so, or if you don't pay attention to a team as much as others, you can see from an outsider looking, he would definitely be one. But I would probably go with Donovan Peoples-Jones and Jamison Williams, just because we haven't seen the full potential of these two players. We have seen the full potential of Kalif Raymond and St. Brown. We know what they bring. They're awesome players. But we generally we haven't seen a breakout yet from Donovan Peoples-Jones because we just got him, and Jamison Williams, who, obviously year one he was injured and they redshirted him. Then last year he really started picking up, and I think he does take a significant jump to probably near 1,000 yards receiving. But I got a question for you. I need you to pick one of these players to have a breakout. Type in KR for Kalif Raymond if you think he's going to have a wide receiver for number 3, a breakout wide receiver. Do you think it's going to be Donovan Peoples-Jones? Put DPJ for wide receiver 3. Let's continue on with the Lions news and rumors here. The Lions lose a staff member, and he was highly regarded. And the Detroit Lions lost one to the Washington Commanders. The Commanders are naming Brandon Sosna as their senior vice president of football operations. Sosna spent the past 2 seasons with the Lions as their senior director of football administration, overseeing Detroit's strategic planning, salary cap management, and serving as their chief contract negotiator. So that's what Sosna done for the Detroit Lions. He was dealing with all the contracts and the finances. And so I'm sure he was a big part of the last 3 contracts we just got done with Penei Sewell, Jared Goff, and Amon-Ra St. Brown. My take is here, we're bound to lose players, folks, and we're bound to lose staff members. This is what happens when you're a good franchise. When you do good, you're going to lose players. And this is part of being a high-end franchise. I'm surprised we haven't lost any more. Right? We're going to be poached quite a bit as this franchise goes in the right direction. But in all honesty, yeah, we're going to lose a Sosna. We're going to lose other individuals in the front office. But as long as we got Brad Holmes, as long as we got Dan Campbell, those guys, and Sheila Ford Hamp as the owner, that's not going to change. The Lions front office is going to be perfectly fine in Spielman because they got a lot of guys that know what they're doing. So congratulations to Sosna. Don't really know him at all, but he's a Lion, a former Lion that's getting a pay raise, and congratulations to him. Washington Commanders, you're getting a good one. There's important dates that you need to pay attention to for the upcoming weeks and couple months here. OTA workout, week 1, May 21 through 23. We're going to be having another OTAs here in Detroit on May 29 through 31. That's the second week of OTAs. June 10 through 12, week 3 of OTAs. Then you have mandatory minicamp, June 4 through 6. And, of course, late in training camp in July. So we got a lot of training coming up for the Detroit Lions. That's a good thing, so just pay attention to those dates. When training camp dates come out where people can attend the practice, I'll definitely let all you guys know. Should the Detroit Lions make a move for Budda Baker? Well, an article came out today saying the Detroit Lions should be aggressive to trade for the highly regarded safety out of Arizona. Budda Baker, if you don't know, Pro Bowl safety, one of the best safeties in football. He's not the biggest guy in the world at 5'10", 195, but he's got a gigantic heart and he plays through pain, and that's what made him an all-pro type of player. Last year, he had 87 total tackles, 2 interceptions, 0 pass defense, and 58 solo tackles. He has been a player who has been injured, but he's a guy that is like a Dan Campbell type of guy. Loves to hit, and he plays through pain. So there's been speculation, should the Detroit Lions make a move for them? And articles are coming out today that the Lions should, but I'm going to keep it as probably as possible as I could get here, and I don't think at all the Detroit Lions going to make a trade for Budda Baker. When these articles come out, I always get hit with DMs. I always get hit comments, and so I have to address it right away to give you my thoughts. And it doesn't sound like a Brad Holmes move at all. Have we made anything like that type of move? No, we haven't done that at all, and it doesn't really make sense, especially when you look at the safeties that we have here in Detroit. We got quite a bit of safeties here. We got C.J. Moore, Afutu Melifonwu, Brian Branch, Kirby Joseph. That's not the depth chart order, but that's the safeties that we currently got. And they picked up CJ Moore for special teams, folks. There's a reason why they did that. That is because they already like the safeties that they got, the other three. So he would be the backup. I absolutely don't believe that the Lions would make a move for Budda Baker. But would you trade for Budda Baker? Let me know in the comment section, T for trade or P for pass. Blow it up with your thoughts. The Detroit Lions are getting mad love all over because aggregated polls have the Detroit Lions having the #1 ranked offensive line in the NFL. And that came from Jeff Rissons on Lions Wire. The aggregate showing the Lions got the best offensive line of football, and everybody agrees with that. And what do I say? But of course, we invested in this offensive line, and it is the best in football. We lose Jonah Jackson, and then we got an upgrade in Kevin Zeitler. Even though he's older, it's an upgrade. And it's crazy. This Detroit Lions offensive line is absolutely ridiculously sick. You got Taylor Decker. I'd say he's definitely a top half left tackle in football. You got Graham Glasgow, who performed admirably the past season, was our starter. Frank Ragnow, all-pro type of center. Kevin Zeitler, an all-pro type of guard. And then you got Penei Sewell, an all-pro type of right tackle. This offensive line is ridiculous and sick. And this is why the Detroit Lions is going to be a good football team, is because of the offensive line, because of the investment that they did there to protect their quarterback and run the football. So I agree. That's definitely it. Folks, make sure you go ahead and subscribe to the channel. All you got to do is hit that big old red subscribe button. It's easy to do, so hit it, and we are good to go. With that said, folks, adios.